Debbie from Project 39 Mini Album. We're going to make a mini album today. Before we make it, I'm going to go over the basic tools that I use. If you're not interested in this, you can speed ahead or go forward. But I'm going to show you what it is I use. The reason I use these is just because I have had them in my collection for a while. I am using to score. First of all, scoring is making a line. I use this scoreboard, and then you can crease your paper on that line. Some people will use a trimmer scoreboard like this. This is a cutting blade, and this is a scoring blade. If I'm going on a trip, I might take this with me. To me, it's a little more tedious. Like if you need to score at a half, at an inch and a half, 3 and 5, you'll have to move the paper every time. Here you keep the paper and you move your stylus for scoring. But I mean, if this is what you have, it will work. And this trimmer does expand out to 17 inches. There's like a no man's land here between 4 and 3.5, but you know, you can figure it out. I also use this little handy dandy trimmer. It's a Fiskars one. The main thing I use is this beast. I have had this for quite a long time. It's not available anymore. It's a rotary trimmer. I have a titanium blade and I don't have to replace that, but I do have to replace this cutting pad. Oh, like about now. Every once in a while, I have to replace that cutting pad. You can turn it over so you can use it 8 different places. Someday I'll figure out how to sand it down and use it more, but anyhow. So there's that. Oh, the thing about using these is you do have to replace your cutting blade every so often. I don't use this one that much, so I can't tell you how often I need to replace it. But there is that. I know some people love using that. With a score board, and this is a 12-inch one. This is a Martha Stewart one. Again, I've had it for a while. If I were to start over, I would go with probably the Score Pal one, just because there's a surface you can put on there and use that as well. To score, you would think I would have scrap paper around. We'll use this. To score, you need some kind of stylus. And I like to use this. This is a Cricut tool. It goes in Cricut machines, or used to. I don't know if they still use it. I've had it for a while. It's got a metal point, so it doesn't go dull. But it works okay. It makes a nice score. There used to be, couldn't tell you where it is, a stylus that comes with this. I don't have it. I don't like using it. It doesn't give me a nice sharp score. I also have this pencil, I guess I'll call it a bone folder or a pencil stylus. You can use this as well. You will find yourself taking an emery board or something to sharpen it every once in a while. You don't want it sharp, but the point gets sort of dull. But you can use this. And then I also could use my bone folder. So we call these bone folders, even though they're not made of bone. They used to be made of bone way back when, but now they're not. They're just called folders or a scoring tool or burnishing tool. So these ones I am quite happy with. I think this is Dress Your Craft. This will come to me in a second. Who makes this? Tonic Studios makes this one. I think this is a Dress Your Craft one also. These are non-stick bone folders. Again, these you can take an emery board or a piece of sandpaper and sharpen it if they get dull. You'll notice sometimes you're scoring on black paper and you see little pieces of this. So it does lose a little bit when you're working with it. Um, I really like this one, the Dress Your Craft one, just because it fits in my hand. It's got this dull point to it, which is great for getting into crevices. It's got this nice wide blade for scoring, and it just fits in my hand nice. This one I got at a retreat, and this is by far number two. It's a comes in a very close second. It's very good too. I guess I have fat hands and I like the thicker one. But this is nice too. It's got a little more of a narrower point, which comes in handy for some other things. A couple other things I use. Well, let's talk about adhesives. So I use this Designer Dries Clear adhesive from the Art Glitter Company. We will refer to it uh, in the mini album and paper crafting world as art glitter glue. I once said that on a uh, video, and somebody said, "Oh, how cool. You'll even have glitter in your project." No, there is no glitter in this art glitter glue. I'm guessing, and I don't know the history of it, but I'm guessing that it was made to apply glue, and the art glitter company realized that it's a very good glue and people will use it for all sorts of paper crafts. With this, you'll want to get this metal tip. I put it into a smaller bottle because this bottle I can clean easier. And there's that metal tip with a pin. It's been well loved. Um, but you can take off this and put this on. You'll need a different kind of cap for that. Let me see if I can show you. No, I guess I can't. It just looks like this. Um, but I generally get it in the 16 ounce and refill my little 2 ounce, 1 ounce jar, whatever it is. So I just find this is easier for me to hold and do. So that is the liquid adhesive I use. It is entirely my opinion that the Designer Dries Clear adhesive from the Art Glitter Company is the best for mini albums. You may differ, your opinion may differ, and that's okay. We can have different opinions. I also will use, it's called Suk Wang. We call this score tape. This is a double-sided permanent adhesive. It is, it's on a roll. It's got a backing on it. You have to peel off, you have to burnish it real well and then peel off the backing and then things will stick to it. There's good things and bad things about both of these glues. The good thing about this is it's immediate, it will stick. Um, it's easy to use, it's clean. The bad thing about it is once it's stuck, it's stuck. The only thing that will get it off is lighter fluid or heat. But also, um, I wouldn't attest that mini albums will last forever using this. Let's say you're in a hot, humid climate. I don't know that this is going to work forever. So you'll find I'll use a combination of this and the liquid adhesive. This works for some different things, like areas that I know will be reinforced or covered in other ways. And again, it's fast and it's easy. If I'm doing 3D projects, I might use this because it's an instant stick. So that's the adhesives I use. Other tools, I have several different scissors. This is a Fisker scissors. This is another one. I probably use those the most. I use this for fussy cutting, that's cutting around little detaily things. I also have a craft knife, which I'll use, a ruler, which I'll use. A lot of people will use a centering ruler, and a centering ruler will start at 0 in the center, and then it'll be 1 here and 1 there, and 2 here and 2 there. So if you have a piece of paper and you want to figure out where the center is, you can use your centering ruler. And then a pencil. I keep a pencil around just because I need to. Let's talk chipboard. So the project we're going to make, we're using some chipboard. This came from an 8.5 by 11 piece. For my smaller albums, I'll just cut down an 8.5 by 11 piece. This is medium weight chipboard. You can use heavyweight chipboard as well. You could use lightweight chipboard. I tend not to use cereal boxes and the like in my mini albums. I just have something against using something that did hold food in it. I'm sure it's perfectly fine. I just don't like it. But I will use that in like notebooks and things that are, in my mind, disposable. You use them, and then when you're done, you can recycle them. I use a couple of different kinds of cardstock. The one we're using today is artisan cardstock. You can get this at Country Craft Creations. I am a design team member for Country Craft Creations, and I believe in their products. It's not to say that I won't use other projects or products in my projects, but for my design team projects, I will always use artisan cardstock. The reason that I use this is it works well. I don't think you can see this. It's got a little bit of a texture. It's 87 pounds. It's always the right color. The colors stay true. It scores well. It takes ink well. It folds well. It burnishes well. I generally don't get cracking in it with the paper. So I've used it and I like it. So that's why I use that. I think that's about it. I think those all the tools. If you have any questions on something that I did not mention, put it in the description box. And if you like another product, go ahead and put it in the description box and tell us why you like that certain product. I'm not opposed to that. We all have our own opinions. So now, without any further ado, let's get started with a quick and easy tutorial. All right, to start, let me tell you, I'm going to make two different mini albums. One is a little more simple than the next one. One is going to be very simple. This is for a pure beginner. Again, this is how I make mini albums. I am not to say that the way I make it is the only way to ever make a mini album. It's just how I do it. It's some things that I've learned along the way that may help you. I'm going to start with two pieces of 8 3/4 by 8 1/2 cardstock. I am going to use 1/4 inch double-sided permanent adhesive, otherwise known as score tape. And yes, I do just rip mine. A lot of people will take it and use a tool to get a nice straight line. I guess I'm too lazy to do that, or it's not that important to me. What I want to do is put these two pieces together on the what side? The 8 1/2 side. 8 3/4 is going the long way. So what I like to do is, this is why I have this grid pattern on my surface. I try to line this up with one of the lines on the bottom, and here's the center line, this blue one, and I've got my score tape 1/4 inch away from the center line, so I can just line this piece up with the blue line. So here it's lined up with the blue, there it's lined up with the blue. So I've got a nice straight line. Now, if this part isn't straight, it's all right. It's not the end of the world. In fact, most of what we do, it's okay if it's not perfect. It is not the end of the world. Okay, what I'm going to be doing is using the art glitter glue to put this together. In the next one, I'm going to be using my double-sided adhesive, my score tape. I used to put it together with the glue, and I don't much anymore. It's just neater and cleaner to use the score tape. But I'm going to do it this way. I took the fine point off of my glue because I want more glue to come out so it goes down fairly quickly. I'm also going to line this up with my the lines on my surface, just because I want to get good lines. All right, so I'm putting glue on here. I'm using a fairly good amount of glue. Again, I've got the cap off, so I just don't want there to be any um, area that it's not going to glue. So again, I'm eyeballing this. I'm just trying to put it down sort of in the center. It's not going to be exactly the center because, so I've got 1 1/4 there, 1 1/4 there. it could go up, but there we go. We've got it down. Again, it's not perfect, but it's going to be close enough. And I will turn it over and burnish because I want that glue to distribute on my chipboard. Y'all, it's been a while since I've done an album this way. Sort of feels a little funny. All right, I'm taking this 1/4-inch score tape and putting one piece on either side. So one on the left side, one on the right side of that chipboard. I do it for a couple of different reasons. It helps space things, and it will use it to adhere things. Now I'm going to peel off the backing of that score tape. And then I've got two 6.5 by 6.5 pieces of chipboard. I cut them in my big cutter. If you don't have a machine that'll cut, you can use an X-Acto. You know what? There's so much glue here. I didn't like how lumpy it was. I usually don't use my fingers, and I'll clean it off in a second. But all right, now I'm going to put this on that score tape. So the score tape's 1/4 of an inch. I want, I don't know, about 3/16 of an inch. Okay, so you see there's about an inch there. All right, let's do this without using my fingers. I'm running out of glue on here, but that's okay. And again, I'll line this up on that score tape. I use it because I like to have a guide on where I need to put this, but 1/4 of an inch is too big for me. So I'm going to and I'm going to clean up glue. I have an old t-shirt here. Alrighty. So now we're going to let it dry. You can see it's not perfectly straight. There's a little more room here than there is here, but that's going to be okay. Turn this over and burnish. Distribute the glue. I'll take my bone folder and push down just so I can see where the end of the chipboard is. Of course, I've got the score tape here, so it might stick down to my surface, but that's all right. It'll come out. All right. Now I'm going to grab some scissors, and what I want to do is cut a corner off. So when I fold this over, it's not bulky. So what I'm going to do is cut right across there. Can you see that line? Now, the secret is you don't want to be closer than 1/8 of an inch from this corner. And why is that? Uh, because when you don't want to see the chipboard. If for some reason you cut too close, just take one of these corners and just glue it right here. And nobody will ever see it. But for now, we don't need that. I'm going to refill my glue and be right back. All right, so we've cut off the corners, and I'm going to add my glue to the album. I'm going to go around the perimeter. So I'm going to go right next to, I'll do just one side and then I'll go here. Now, some people like to add the score tape to adhere everything real well. I'll do it for the second one. I usually don't because I know it will stick. All right, so I'm taking my bone folder with this part, going right up against the chipboard and distributing that glue that I put right next to it. And now I'm going to burnish, meaning push down and go back and forth. And I'm pulling this flap down a little bit every time I go back and forth. And now I'm going to flatten it right up against my surface. And I'm not going to worry about right here for now. I'm just going to go over my surface. Okay, now let's do it on this side. So again, I'll take my glue, go right up next to the chipboard. I'm sorry, I know it's hard to see on white. I'll go to the point across the top and then zigzag on there. Take my bone folder and burnish. Get it right up against that chipboard. I fold it down with one finger or one hand and I burnish with the other. Now here I had a little gap. I think the problem is that my chipboard was not cut at the exact same size, but that's okay. I just worked on it with my bone folder and flattened it out. You will never know. All right, now I've got this little corner that I'm going to push in with my bone folder and flatten because when I fold it over, I don't want that corner to stick out and just not be uh, flat. So now I'll go down this trapezoid shape. This will be easier because it's smaller. Burnish real well and push down. Now if I get glue on my bone folder, I'll clean it off. And then one more side. So again, I don't think this glued. Push down on that little triangle piece. When you're doing it, you will see what I mean. And then take glue, go right next to the chipboard and zigzag. Okay, then I take my bone folder and go against the edge just to make sure it's right next to that chipboard. And then I'm going to take this blunt end of my bone folder and push down so the side that's on the top that has the double-sided tape will adhere to the double-sided tape on the bottom. And then I'll burnish. Okay, and so there is our chipboard. Now let me show you a couple of things that I'm not nuts about. I don't know if you can see this. There you can. You can see the glue that I used leaves bumps and ridges on here. Now, once it's drying, most of it will go away. And then this is not a nice straight line, but because we had that, I don't know, 3/16 inch gap, this is not going to crack. Most people who have a crack in their covers, it's because they didn't leave enough of a gap between here and there. Some people say leave the width, the thickness of a piece of chipboard, like one of these thicknesses. Some people say use 2 thicknesses. This is about a little more than 2 thicknesses, but some people say leave 1/4 of an inch, which I think is too big. Some say don't leave any gap, whatever. That's how I do it. So now the fact that there is that the bumps caused by the liquid adhesive, that's something that we're going to remedy in the next one, in the next video. But for now, I mean, it'll work. You're going to put the paper over the top of it. Nobody will see it. So there is that. Now I also have a piece of scrap chipboard. When I cut this paper down to 8.5 by 8 3/4, there was 2 12 by 12 sheets. I had this piece left over. I'm going to adhere that onto this. Since this album does not have a hinge system, we're going to do it without a hinge. There won't be anything on the spine to cover it. All right, again, I'll use a fair amount of glue. Going to put it on the spine. I'm going to put it on the piece next to it. I'm not going to put it on where there's the score tape, like in the center there. Then I'll go around the perimeter here. Want to work sort of fairly quickly, because when you make these fine lines with the glue, it tends to dry. So I'm going to just cover my center with this and burnish it real well. Now you could have used a piece of the pattern paper you're going to use. The only thing I worry about that is it depends on what company made the paper and how thick it is, but it could crack right here. So since I didn't want it to crack, I just used a piece of the cardstock. All right, I'm pushing this down so it meets where we have that double-sided adhesive. I'll do the same for this side. So I'm taking the blunt edge of my bone folder and going back and forth several times. Every time I push a little harder to try to get the top piece of paper to match with the bottom that has that adhesive. Now, there's no adhesive here, but there is some glue. And I'll burnish there. All right. Now I'm going to just let this dry while we work on other parts of it, but that is the cover. So we are going to use, I used 2 12 by 12 sheets of cardstock, and I cut them down to 6 inches. So we have 4 6 by 12 pieces. I'm going to get out the scoreboard. Now, as I said, there's no hinge, so we need a way to attach the pages to the spine, the inside spine of the mini album. I'm going to use this bone folder. So we're going to have a piece of this paper that we're going to glue and put on the spine. I'm going to make this as simple as possible, so I'm not going to cut this down. It's still 6 by 12, and we'll have a little flap on here. So what we need to do is score it at 1/2 an inch. This 1/2 of an inch is where it's going to adhere. You notice I went back and forth a couple of times. I wanted to make sure there was a good score line there. That's where it's going to adhere. Then I'm going to do 1/4 of an inch. This, by the way, is going to be an L page because it's sort of shaped like a letter L, and the bottom part of the L is what will attach to the mini album. You'll see. But we're going to have an extra 1/4 of an inch just to give it a little more movement. Now, so I scored at 1/2 an inch and at 3/4, and I'm going to go all the way over to 7 1/4. And the reason is my pages are going to be 6 inches. So we had 1/2 and a little 1/4 or 3/4. So I went over, maybe it was 6 or 6. What did I say? 6 1/2. I did 6 1/2. So we have our 1/2 inch, 3/4. We're going to go all the way over to 6 3/4 and score there. So this is the 6-inch page. And this is going to be a flap. So we'll do that with the rest of the pieces. I'll do one more and then I'll do the other 2 off camera. Score it 1/2. Oh, and I keep my paper as close to the top and the side or else it's going to get wonky. 1/2, 3/4, and then 6 3/4. 1/2, 3/4, 6 3/4. So we'll do the other ones off camera and then we'll get them all ready. 3/4, 6 3/4. All right, now we're going to take our book, which is dried nicely. Well, first, let's take our pieces and we're going to fold and burnish on the score lines. And that just means what it sounds like. We're going to fold on our score line. And when you're folding, make sure your sides are even. If you had it over to the side or wonky and you burnish it, that's how it's going to stay. So just double check and make sure all of your folds are even. And it doesn't matter. I mean, people will say fold to you, fold away from you, fold with the grain, fold against the grain. The way papers are made, it is not that imperative which way you fold, especially with the Country Craft Creations artisan cardstock. For most of my pages, I'm going to take this 1/2 inch and sort of fold it behind to the back. One I'm going to fold to the front. So we will do that. The flap will go to the front. The little L will go to the back. So I still have a couple of pieces of scraps left over from when I cut to cover the book. I'm going to grab these 2 pieces. They measure 8.5 by just about 3. I'm going to cut them down. Now this book is 6.5 wide, and I'm going to make a pocket. To make a pocket, you need it 1 inch longer than what you're going to put the pocket on. So I need these to be 7.5. I'm going to cut both at one time. And then I'll grab my scoreboard. And with the long side, which is the 7.5 inch side at the top, I'm going to score it 1/2 inch. I'm going to rotate so the short side's at the top. I'm going to score it 1/2 inch. And I'm going to rotate again so the long side's at the top, scored 1/2 inch. So you want 2 short sides and 1 long side to have a score line on it. And we're going to miter. That means taking off just a little bit. So like a pie-shaped piece from the top. I'm starting it about 1/8 of an inch down and going right to where that score line is. Or you could start from the score line and go at an angle that way. Now when you score for the bottom of the pocket, so I'm going to draw a line so you can see. So there are the lines caused by where I creased. You're going to just cut right across the line caused by the X. So right across like that. Now I'm going to do this one. And so when I say make a pocket, score 2 short sides and 1 long side, you always score it 1/2 inch unless we say otherwise. So 1 short side, 1 long side, and 1 short side. And we'll miter that as well. Across the X goes by those 2 score lines. And there we go. Now I know people save a lot of scraps, but there is no reason to save those scraps. Okay, so now I'm going to fold and burnish on those score lines. So I will fold and burnish So the surface, it's down on the surface, I'm folding up. And now to adhere, I'm gonna grab some tape. Why do we need tape? I'll show you. So I'm going to add glue to this bottoms tab, the 1/2 inch that we have from when we scored. And I'm going to put this on the front of the book. Right now we don't have any top and bottom, so it doesn't matter. And I'm going to make sure it stays close to the outside and close to the bottom. I want it even with the bottom. And I just again have glue on the side or the bottom pieces. I'll burnish real well just on that bottom piece. Okay, now we're going to grab our tape. So it's just regular packing, no, or you could use packing tape if you wanted. I've used that sometimes. I guess I'd call it Scotch tape, but I couldn't tell you what brand it is. And I pulled out a piece that is just about 6.5, and I'm putting it down on the bottom of what we put as long as on this piece. So why are we doing this? Because if for some reason we're going to cover the back with a piece of decorative paper that doesn't go all the way to the bottom, this way whatever you put in the pocket will go in and not get hung up on where this tab is. Now that we've got that down, we can go ahead and add glue to the side tabs and put that down and burnish. Now sometimes when I'm making a pocket, I'll push in at the top corners. In this case, I don't need to because that will fit. Sometimes it just stays rather flat, and that way it helps you get stuff in the pocket. And so again, I'm going to do the same thing with the pocket in the back. And why would you use a pocket in a mini album? I don't go crazy with pockets. I mean, every once in a while I'll do a mini album that has a pocket on every page, but not often. You can use a pocket to use the journaling cards. You can put pictures on the back of the journaling cards, and you can add ephemera. What is ephemera? Ephemera is just anything that you want to add. It could be napkins, it could be newspaper articles, it could be a ticket, not like the bad kind of ticket, like a ticket you might have gotten when you paid for to go to an event. Anything that is related to what you're using, that's ephemera. All right, I will add some more glue to the tabs here and fold this over and glue. I like to, in my mini albums, if you start following me, you will notice in the back page, I usually have a pocket with a flap, and that way you could put anything that didn't fit in the rest of the mini album and just add it to your back pocket. All right, so now we've got that done, and that's pretty cool. Let's get our pages again. All right, so let's again go over what this is. So we've got this L page that's going to attach. It's going to go down like this piece, so the page will go back and forth. Here's the main page, and here's a flap. This flap is 5¼ inches. What I would like to do is add a pocket to this. I've got this piece left over, which is 12. So if that's 5¼ to make a pocket, I need it 6¼ this is 12 inches. So I'm not going to be able to get 4 pockets out of it at the exact right measurement. What I'm going to do is do two of these flaps will have pockets and 2 won't. So that's 5¼ we need this 6¼ and then I'm going to get out my other little cutter This is 6 1/4 by 3 1/2. We're going to cut this so it'll be 1 3/4 is half of 3 1/2. So I cut that down so we have 2 pieces the same size. And now I'm going to score on 2 short sides and 1 long side. So I'll put the long side at the top and score it half. Now I also could tell you to score it half and at 5 3/4, so you're not rotating it 3 ways. But sometimes just to make it easy, I'll say score on 2 short sides, 1 long side, so you'll score it 1/2 inch. Either way, it's going to come out exactly the same. And we're going to fold in, or we're going to miter. So again, go up to that score line or start at the score line and go down. Probably if you start at the score line and go down, you're less likely to overcut it, like take out a corner of here so it's not straight up and down. And the scissors tend to stay in that little bevel that we made. Okay. And then I'll fold and burnish. These are tiny little pockets. That's okay. Something will still stick in them. And the fact that we have this flap that's going to go in, it will help stick. All right. So I will add this. Now make sure you stay away from this score line. We want to make sure that this will still fold. And then we can add a little piece of tape to this. Do you have to add tape to every one? No, you don't. I mean, if you've done a couple and you realize your piece doesn't go in, then you see why you would want to do that. But it's not necessary. I'll burnish. And then again, make sure that this will fold, and it does. So there was one. Let's do another one. So I'll add glue to this bottom tab. Put it on, sort of keep away from this score line so it'll still fold. Line it up with the bottom. Add a little piece of tape. And then add glue there and there. And fold and burnish on our score line. Or fold and burnish where we've added the glue. Alrighty. All right, we have 2 more pieces that are left over from when we cut our paper. One measures 3 1/2 by 5 1/2, and one is 3 1/2 by 5 3/4. I'm going to cut both of these so we can put a journaling card. So one I'm going to have attached to the top, and by journaling cards I mean these pieces. I guess we could call them cut aparts. A journaling card would have room on the back to write, and we can add some plain paper on the back so you could document something. And I haven't decided which one yet, but these all measure 3 by 4. Now, sometimes you're going to find some paper where they're 4 by 6, or these are probably 2 by 2. Sometimes they're 4 by 4. So sometimes they're going to be different sizes, but we're trying to use up this scrap. Now, once I've decorated it, I might go ahead and add more. But so if it's a 3x4 card, and I'm going to have it with the design, like it'll be like this way. I want it to be 1/2 an inch more so I can fold it, plus 1/8 of an inch. So if it's a 4 inch, we need 1/2 an inch, so we need 4 1/2, plus an extra 1/8 of an inch because I don't want it right up to there. So I am cutting this at 4 5/8 by 3 1/8. So there is a 1/8 gap, really a 1/16 of an inch gap all around. So, sorry, these are trash. So this will be a top folding one. This one I'm going to cut to 4 1/8 by 3. Oh, it's already 3 1/2. Well, we're going to leave it at 3 1/2. I might end up cutting down the journaling card. I'm going to save this because we might use it. There are some other little decorations like here and these little things that we might find room for. It's really is gorgeous paper. So let's score this. Okay, so this one, the one that's 4 5/8, we'll put the 4 5/8 at the top and simply score it 1/2 an inch and fold and burnish on that score line. And it's okay that I'm doing it on the scoreboard. We also can miter from the score line. All right, so that's ready for a journaling card. And then this one, as I said, is just at 3 1/2. So we could do one of two things. Either we could score it at 3/8, which still gives me a good tab to put on, or we could cut the journaling card down. Like if you were to use this one, there's a lot of room on the side that you could cut it down just by 1/8 of an inch. But you know, the easiest thing here is to score at 3/8 of an inch, so we don't have to worry about cutting the card down. Then I'll miter. So it's a teeny little tab. And I'm already making exceptions to the normal rules, but you know, to show you, you can make it work. All right, now we have these two pieces that we don't have anything on. So I'm going to take one of them and add some glue to that tab, that 1/2 inch tab on the top, and center this on our flap. Just like that. So I'm folding and burnishing. And then we've got this one, and you could add this anywhere. You could add it here. I guess we could do that. We'll just do that. So I'm going to add glue onto the smaller tab. It's 3/8 of an inch. And on this paper, we've got our 1/2 inch, we've got the 3/4. I'm going to put it on the right side of that 3/4 inch score line. I'm just making sure it's centered and lined up. So we still have that score line, and it's just to the right of the score line. So it'll sort of hold this in a little bit. So now let's cut paper to decorate. All right, let's start covering the book because we've got all the components done. What I've done ahead of time is cut all of my paper, and I'll tell you the measurements. Now, the thing about using a 12 by 12 paper pad is for this size book, you should be able to get 4 squares of 6 by 6. You need less than 6 by 6 for the pages, but for the cover you need more than 6 by 6 because the cover is 6 1/2 by 6 1/2. So what I usually do is use some layering techniques. I try to find coordinating paper in my stash and layer that. Okay, so this is not how it's going to be because I don't like the green design, but I wanted this to go in the front just because I think that's so pretty. But I sort of like this, and I was toying with the idea of adding this deeper green, but I decided against it. So what I decided I'm going to do is actually cut down this white part, take off that green. Another technique I like to employ to conserve paper, because I only had one sheet of this yellow. I'm trying to see if I can tell you what the yellow is. And I can't. I'll link it in the description box once I remember what it is. Um, Anyhow, it's the perfect yellow to go with this. So I've cut this piece. I'm getting my ruler so I can tell you exactly how big I cut this yellow. The book is, again, 6.5 by 6.5, so I cut this yellow 6.25 by 6.25. And then I've got this piece 6 by 6. So there will be a little bit of the yellow showing through. And then I want to put this on here, and we will, let me cut it down. Let's do it now. So I don't know if you can see, but it's got rounded borders. I'm just going to cut straight, not worry about the rounded borders right this second. So if you look closely, and I'm going to save these because I might be able to use them for banners, for accents, I don't know what. But I'll save them until I'm all done with the book, and then I'll use it some way. So I'm going to round this corner because there's still some green on the end. So I have a quarter rounder, and I will just round this, and that takes all of the green off of it. But now I feel like this needs to stand out a little more. So I'd like to put some more yellow below it. So what I did is after I cut this, I just cut a square out of it. Now this is probably too big, but you'll never notice that there is a chunk taken out of that yellow. So we have that, and then we'll have that and this. Okay, so obviously this is too big for that, so I will cut this down a little bit more. This measures, it's about 3 by 3. So 4 by 3, giving it a 1/2 inch is a little bit too big. Do I want a 1/4 inch border? Go 3 1/4. I will. I'll do 3.5 by 3.5. So I'll cut this down to 3.5. The way I cut that square out of it is I just put it in my paper trimmer and cut 1 inch on the inside. Not exactly. I knew I just needed a 1/4 of an inch on the side. So I just cut it on my paper trimmer, stopping and starting before it was needed. Do I want to round these corners? No, I don't think I will. All right, I'm going to glue this onto my yellow just so I know. Just so I have this visually completed and I can work from there. Then we have this. And that is nice. Now, do I have anything in my stickers I can use on a corner? So it says sweet baby boy, so I can't, there's lots of welcome baby boy, handsome boy. I don't want that. It just is repetitive. I'm looking to see if there's a banner of some kind. There's a small banner that, I mean, that could, I think it's too small, look. I could put it here. So I'll save that as a possibility for later. Um, there's this blue, which says cute as a button. So I'll save that as a possibility as well. There's lots of little buttons I can add. I like to keep my covers simple. I don't layer as much as I should. And I don't have the ephemera or anything like that. As I look at this, I realize I'm going to round these corners too. And that just makes this sort of a cohesive piece. I like that. But I'd like to differentiate this from the background do I want to try some of that blue I have? Just like a small 1/4 inch. It doesn't really show up that much. You know what? For simplicity's sake, I'm just going to glue this on for right now onto the yellow because I know that that's going to be a thing. And I'm adding a little bit of temporary adhesive, and I'm just going to put this on for now until I figure something out. I'd like to have something dark, maybe pull out some of the blue. I could put like a strip like behind it, you know, do that. This is not the right size, but just so you can see how I'm messing around with it, maybe have this up a little higher. And have this here, and then have room here for a train or I don't know, something. But for now, I'm just going to leave this as it is, and I'm going to glue it down. So when I glue on the covers, I like to add glue close to the edge so it can smear to the edge so the edge of the paper doesn't get folded up or banged up in any way. All right, just trying to make sure it is even top and bottom, side to side. Reaching for my bone folder. And again, this is just temporary, so I'm taking that off. And I'll revisit this. You'll see what I've done later. I'm just not sure yet. All right, let me tell you the measurements of paper that we're putting in the book. So this one, have I glued this in? No. So this, I included the bottom here because, you know, we're going to put it in here and nobody will see that very bottom part. And it helps if you put anything in that pocket for it to go all the way down. If you remember, we added some tape to it. The width of this is, it's 6 5/16. Now, if you don't like all those teeny measurements, you can just do 6 1/4. It's going to be close enough. And it's probably 6 1/4 up and down. So I'm just going to put it in. Same with this. I cut this train to put on the inside. Use some yellow paper, and that is 6. It's a little smaller. It should have been the same size. So it should be 6 1/4 or 6 5/16. And up and down, it is 2 7/16, or it could be 2 3/8. And the train paper is 6. Oh yeah, that's why. So I cut this 6 so I could take it out of a 6 by 6 piece of paper, and that's why everything's a little smaller. And this measurement is 2 3/16. Yes, I use those 16ths if I need to. So there is that. Let me tell you measurements of most of our pages. So this is 3 by 4. I remember we made it a little bit bigger, and now I'm looking, wishing I hadn't made it that 1/8 of an inch bigger. So for some reason this is cut down, and it is 2 3/4. If it was 3 by 4, it would be perfect. So I don't know. I'll figure it out. I need a piece that's 3 by 4 for the back. This one has the flap on it. The paper of the flap is 5 1/8 by 5 7/8. So everything is 5 7/8 tall. This is 5 7/8 wide. So all of the paper that's going to go on that main page is going to be 5 7/8 by 5 7/8. The flap is going to be 5 7/8 by, what did I tell you? 5 1/8. the, oh, the paper for the pocket. I know I did one of the pockets. So this is 5 7/8 by 5 1/8. This is 5 1/8 by 1 1/8. So what I'm going to do is glue all these papers and get them permanently attached. I have to go back in my scraps and see what I have for this. I want something sort of plain. So I'm going to do that. I'll glue everything down and then we'll come back and we'll put the pages in the book and then we'll decorate. So let's do that. All right, now all the decorative paper has been glued onto the pages and I put them in order. The last page at the end, page 3, page 2, page 1. So what we're going to be doing is adhering this 1/2 inch tab down onto our spine. What you need to do is do the math. So this is 2 inches. Once we have the paper on, it looks a little bit thicker, but it basically is 2 inches. If we do 4 of these 1/2 inch things, you would think that's 2 inches, but we put one down with the hinge, this hinge piece going to the right, the next one going to the right, the next one going to the right, and the fourth one we're overlapping on the third, so it'll go to the left. So instead of being 4 of these, which are 1/2 inches, which would be 2 inches, it's really 3, which is 1.5 inches. And the reason we're talking math here is because you need to know that the hinges are going to take up 1.5 inches of this space. That's 2 inches, so that means it's a 1/2 inch extra, which means you have 1/4 of an inch on each side extra. Now, it's not going to come out exactly like that, but just knowing what that is. So you could use something like a spacer. You could draw lines. I don't like drawing lines because it's hard to erase it afterwards, and you see it. There's no way to score it because there's no way to score it. So in the beginning, I'd say I'd use some kind of spacer or some measuring tool. You could use a T-square, but at this point, I'm going to eyeball it because I'm pretty good at figuring out where it's going to go. Do it first. I shouldn't have put glue on it. I should have double checked it, but I did it before I turned on the camera. I'm adding a reasonable amount of glue for 2 reasons. Number 1, I want to make sure this sticks. And number 2, it gives you a little room to slide. So I'm putting this on, making sure there's a parallel line here, and I'm having 1/4 of an inch between the edge of here and the end of the spine piece. Of course, you can't see it because it's underneath paper, but it's okay. So once I put it down, I burnish real well. I really want to distribute that glue. So there is page number 1 in the book. Page number 2 is going to be, so again, we've got this, let me burnish this a little bit more, this 1/2 inch tab that we're going to butt up right against this other 1/2 inch tab. That way they're going to be straight up and down. So I'll add glue. And you don't want to put the glue on and then, you know, go get a drink of water or whatever. You want to work it fairly quickly because that glue will dry fairly quickly. And then I'll burnish. Okay. So far, so good. Now page number 3, same thing. We have that 1/2 inch tab. And we'll butt that up against the next one, the last one, actually. And you see there's about 1 inch between here and the end of the page. So we're going to have more than enough room for number 3. Matter of fact, I probably could have moved it over a little bit. Okay, so this is the one where our hinge goes to the left as opposed to the right. And this again is why I use the glue from the Art Institute, because I have used it before. I know it works. Make sure when you put this down, number one, it's parallel, and number two, you're not over that hinge line, over that score line. You want to make sure this page is not impinged. So I'll put that down and burnish. Now, if you want to, you can go back and cover those. I don't know that I will. There's enough going on that I don't need to. So we've got the pages in the book. We've got some of the decorating done. I am going to get the elements ready and show you how I'm going to decorate the rest of the book. All right, as it happens, I've changed my mind about the cover. I wanted to break up this plaid. I just felt like that was too plain what I had planned. So I cut a piece of cardstock, 3 inches, which is a little, I don't like to do things exactly in half. It should be like 2/3 and 1/3 or 3/5 and 2/5. To me, it's boring to do something exactly halfway. So I'm going to add this right on top. And then I've got this strip of paper, but obviously it's not going to fit. But you know what? It's not a big deal because we're going to add that other element in the middle. So I just cut it and I'm going to add it to the upper portion so then that way it's not going to be exactly in half. I'll just put this, lining it up with the bottom. And then once we take this and put this on top, it just sort of, I don't know. I feel like it helps balance it out a little bit more. All right, I'm going to add glue. A reasonable amount because this is the cover. It'll get, used, touched. And I'm going to put it up a little bit. I'm not going to center it on the page. It's going to be mostly centered, but up a little bit. Since I've got lines here, I have to be cognizant of that and use those to my advantage. And so that's down, and I will burnish. And then I do want to put a sticker down here, and I do believe I will add the train to the bottom there. And I would add something else. I mean, these diaper pins, not that anyone uses them, are nice, but I don't like that there's such a big white outline on this, so I won't use those. I don't like the stars because there's a white outline, but we do have a lot of these little buttons. So I will add some of those. Just spaced mostly on the top. I'll go back and add glue to them just to make sure that they're going to stick. No, that's too dark. I need a lighter color. We'll use this blue. That's a little on the yellow and a little on the. So that is how I decided to decorate the cover. Okay, so to decorate the inside, I did it in a couple of different steps. I first put rectangles down. So either these bottom ones were 3 by 4, 3.5 by 4, 3.25 by 4, 3.25 by 3, 4 by 4. I can't get a full 4 by 6 photo mat on this because the pages are 6 inches, so that's just not going to work. So some I cut out of cardstock, some I cut out of pattern paper, some are just white, and I just sort of mixed and matched and tried to figure out exactly where I was going to put them. See, this one's 3 by 3, the outer dimension is 3.25 by 3.25. I did not put one on here, but if you wanted to add a photo, you could put it on here, or you could put a photo right there. This one I don't have a photo mat on. I didn't put a photo mat on every single page, but I did a lot. Then I went by and added other elements to the page. This I cut out of a 3 by 4 cut apart and just glued him on, not all the way, so you could still put a photo, and this one I glued at the top. In the pockets, I added something to the pockets. I had some cut aparts that I just added, and this I just rounded the bottom. Now, could I glue that on there? Yeah, but I'm just going to leave that for a photo. It makes a nice background here, sort of breaks it up with the yellow. I could have used white. This I double matted white layer and then yellow and just added that. That's a sticker. I'm going backwards, but that's okay. So this we had, I just glued something on the back, just a scrap. That's a sticker. It breaks up that whole expanse of paper. So again, I took this plaid paper, added star paper, because this to me is all stars. I wish I had a nice star sticker to put on here, but I didn't like them, like I said. This is sort of plain with it just saying baby boy, but that's okay. And what I don't like is that this says baby boy and that says baby boy. I mean, you don't notice it when you're opening it, so it's okay. So again, just the plaid paper, I just had a scrap and put it to break that up. This I cut to be similar to a Polaroid and then added 2 stickers on top of each other and then one there. I just put a sticker here. I used my, uh, who makes this? EK Tools, and put some of this powder or cornstarch, I don't know what it is, up at the top. So this is not sticky, but that was sticky. This is a sticker that overalls is a sticker I put on some background just because it was getting lost, that I just cut, and that is a button that's popped up. I don't know if you can tell. I popped up this banner on the 2 sides so you still could put a photo in here, and this is just glued down at the bottom. So you could put a small photo there, no big deal. I didn't put anything on here. It was a really busy paper and I could have broken it up, but I had enough going on already. I did have photo mats here. This is a journaling card. That's a photo mat that of course is open. This is a sticker I backed on paper. And that just closes. Again, I said there's no magnets in this book. I will, and you can put it this way, I will do magnets in the next version. The next one is still a beginner mini album, but it's just going to take it up a notch. Still beginners though. This is open here. Oops, see, that's why you need to glue down some stickers, especially these little ones. I'll go back and do that. This is popped up. I know you can't tell. It's a train, but that's popped up. That's popped up there. Here's a nice little pocket. I made a photo mat, sort of Polaroid-ish. There's room to put photos there and there. The pocket's big enough. I just love this happy little dude, so I put it there. Yeah, just put a photo on top of if you wanted to. And then here we are at the front pocket. I just liked having something there because this doesn't take up the whole pocket. And then I just had a couple of extra cut aparts left over. Could have put something on here, you know, maybe something like that. The color's not right. So I couldn't find anything, so I just left it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with looking at trains. Let me see. Do I have any little sayings? Welcome, little boy. Welcome, baby boy would be perfect, but it's green and there's not a lot of green here. If it was blue, I would do that. I have cute as a button, but I don't have any buttons on there. I have little things that say baby boy, little, teeny. So I'm just going to leave it. You are my sunshine wouldn't work. So I'm just leaving it. And there we are, back to the front. Here's what I did on the spine. It's yellow border with this paper on top, and in the back, I just broke up this expansive polka dot paper with this striped paper and a sticker right there in the center. Easy schmeezy. What's great about this is it's so easy to make. You get to spend more time decorating with, which I don't know about you, but I enjoy the decorating. So again, this was using It's a Boy collection, and I'm not above cutting these out of the papers and using that as the cover element. I didn't do it here because this was as cute, but you know what? That is an option. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, put it in the description box. Like I said, the next one's going to be different. It's going to use double-sided adhesive. I'm going to use the lay flat cover method. I'm going to use magnets. And the pages are going to be pocket pages instead of flaps. And it's going to be a hinge system, not an L page system. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks so much for watching and have a fabulous day.